Hi friends, welcome back and I am SK Sharma and in this video we'll be doing a quick revision of MCO03 Research Methodologies and Statistical Analysis. Before we proceed on to the video, let me tell you, like it is not an easy subject, lot of concepts are there, and apart from watching these videos or my previous videos on MCO03, I will advise you to follow my study materials. Start करते हैं and this is the first unit. These questions are, there are four questions, four important topics from unit 1 and you are likely to get one question from this unit. And this is on business research. Now सबसे पहले आपको समझना है कि what is research. Like when we are trying to define research, basically it starts with a problem and ends with a solution. So for every research, you should have a problem. That means a systematic study of the problem to find the solution and to use that solution in your business operations. So that is research or business research. When it is conducted for business, it is business research. Now, the first thing that you should try to learn from here is the different methods of research. What are the different ways in which we can conduct research? So the first one is a survey. We can conduct survey of the population of the concerned individuals. Then comes observation. We can also study the behavior, the observation, the activities of other persons and can easily observe how they behave in a particular situation. Then comes case study. Now we are we are acquainted with this case studies we often get in our schools or in management courses. So a certain problem is given and the interview is asked to answer the questions that is related with the case study. So on the basis of that we make a research. Then comes experiment. Basically these experiments are related with the science subject, physics, chemistry, biology, zoology, botany. So all these research, time to time scientists are doing research. So this is basically concerned with science. Then we can collect the historical data. That means the previous data of any previous time, and on the basis of that we find the trend कि कैसा trend था and how it is moving now, right? And lastly we can make a comparison. Basically it is mostly used in statistical surveys where we make a comparison between two different intervals of time, right? The next is importance. Why a business should do research? Okay, first, there are different departments of research in an organization like production department, marketing, finance, human resource, and purchase. So these are the basic functional departments of an organization, and they do require the research because production department it always try to find out the new methods of production. Marketing, again, the styles of marketing, how can we increase or modernize the techniques. Then finance, from what are the different cheapest sources of finance from where we can get funds. And HR, how can we develop our employees. Human resource. And lastly, purchase department, again, like we will be searching for the probable suppliers from where we can get cheap raw materials or goods. Then the next one is characteristics. What are the essential characteristics of a good research? Now, a good research, there are many points you can write. Even from your common sense, you can put down a lot of points. Like it must be objective. There must be an object of research. It must be conducted systematically. It should not be randomly. Okay, there should be like the research to start systematically following a certain research design. Because we were discussing about this. Then the researcher must have sufficient data for the analysis, and then comes it must be logical. Whatever the solution that the researcher arrives at after the research, so it must be logical. There must be a logic behind his solution. Then comes it should be flexible, dynamic. The research should be according to the change of environment. It must be economical, not too expensive, and the research should be completed within the time frame, right? So these are the essential or characteristics, criteria, whatever you say. Then comes problems. Now, as far as these problems are concerned, basically we can relate this with India. Okay, and the researchers in India are less qualified. They are not properly trained. Okay, there are even like there are very few universities or schools where these research courses are being conducted. So that is one problem. Then comes finance. Due to lack of finance, many organizations they do not conduct research. Attitude, they have a negative attitude towards the research. Many organizations believe that this business research is a useless activity. It will be a wastage of resources. So that's why they do not conduct research. And in India, the organizations generally believe in the old traditions, customs. So that is a problem. Then comes information. In India, there are many organizations or people, they do not share the information honestly when asked. So this is again our problem. Then there is no certain code of conduct or laws regarding the research. So this is again an issue. Then there are not good libraries in India where the researcher can get good books to study and do a research. Okay guys, the next topic is research plan. And in this research plan, we should study about three things. First, a research problem, then a research design, and thirdly, hypothesis. So these three are again a very important one. You are likely to get one question out of this. And research problem. As I told you, like research starts with a problem. If you don't have any problem, you will not do any type of research. So while doing this, you should know like what are the different characteristics of a research problem, right? And what are the different types of problems on which we can do research, like business activities, day-to-day problems, or there are certain areas where which are less export, so we can do research on that. Or on our day-to-day basis, whatever the problems that we face, on that we can do the research, or even like a research is done on the basis of the researcher's interest. So that is also a type of research. So like this. Then comes the most important one, research design. Research design, it is a planning, a systematic planning to how to do research, like step to step planning. कैसे रिसर्च करना है, ठीक है, तो वो होता है रिसर्च डिजाइन. एंड इसके लिए मेन कंपोनेंट्स हैं, लाइक डिफाइनिंग द प्रॉब्लम. यू शुड डिफाइन द प्रॉब्लम कि व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम एंड हाउ वी आर गोइंग टू फाइंड द सॉल्यूशन ऑफ दिस. देन इट मस्ट बी very objective. It must it must be done to achieve the objective of the organization or objective of the research. And then comes planning. As I told you, research design is all about planning, formulation of planning. So planning should be very systematic. Then comes hypothesis, formulation of hypothesis. I will tell you about this. Then comes the different sources of data from where we can collect data and information and can use that in research. Okay, hypothesis. Hypothesis, friends, the very simplest meaning is tentative solution. The tentative solution, or in simple words, probable solution of a problem. Okay, like जैसे हमें कोई अगर प्रॉब्लम आती है तो सबसे पहले हम गेस करते हैं कि यस ये क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में आ सकता है, तो वो हाइपोथेसिस हो गया. तो कोई भी प्रॉब्लम को फेस करने के पहले उसके हम प्रोबेबल सॉल्यूशन फाइंड आउट करते हैं, एंड दैट प्रोसेस इज कॉल्ड हाइपोथेसिस. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इन द रिसर्च. एंड ये तीन चीज आपको करनी है हाइपोथेसिस में, द डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ हाइपोथेसिस, द वेरियस क्राइटेरिया टू डू हाइपोथेसिस, एंड व्हाई or what is the importance of hypothesis for a research. These are the different types. Like hypothesis can be explanatory. This is the most important one, the different types. And it can be descriptive, it can be analogical, it can be a working hypothesis, it can be a null hypothesis, or it can be a statistical hypothesis. And you are going to explain this. Just writing these points will not be enough. You should understand what is their meaning. As because the time is limited, so it takes a lot of time to explain this. Okay, the next thing is criteria. Like hypothesis, it should be verifiable. That means it can be verified whether it is true or false. Because hypothesis is a tentative solution, so it may be true, it may be false. So like that. So it should be verifiable. It should be relevant to the problem. It should be simple to understand, and it should follow a certain technique, method, right? And this hypothesis is very, very important because every research starts with hypothesis. So it is the first, that first step to do research. So it shows us the direction, in which direction we should go for the research. Then comes starting point. It is the starting point of the research. Just now I told you about this. It also helps in collection of various data and selecting the data so that we can carry out research on that. And lastly, it also helps in arriving at the conclusion of the problem, right? So this is how this hypothesis, we have a separate chapter on hypothesis we will be doing later on in the video. So for the time being, try to revise all these things. The next topic is collection of data. And as we know, there are two different types of data, that is primary data and secondary data. Primary data, they are collected for the first time. That is why they are called primary data. And in case of secondary data, already the data has been collected by someone and we are using that. So that is secondary data. And these are the different methods by which the different sources by which we can collect primary data, like observation, interview, reporters, questionnaire and schedule. So these are the 5 different methods. These are very important. Always we get a question from the different methods of collecting primary data. So do revise this properly. And sometimes we get this question also, like what are the different methods where from we can collect secondary data. So these are published sources. That means from magazines, newspapers or government journals, reports like that. Unpublished, there are again some research work done by some professionals and they are always there in the university. So from there also universities, colleges, from there we can collect data. Then comes electronic. A lot of data is available on Google, Yahoo, a lot of electronic mediums are there from where the researcher can collect the information regarding a particular subject. The next topic is one of the most important topic, sampling. Now sampling is, when we are doing a research, we have to collect different samples. And these samples can be again divided into 2 types, or the methods by which we can collect samples. One is random, the other is non-random. Random, as the name implies, like we can randomly, आँख बंद करके samples collect करना. Random, like and non-random में we are following a simple technique, a system. Okay. And in random sampling again divided into 5 types. One is simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, then stratified, cluster and multi-stage. I have explained this many times in my previous videos, right? There are a lot of flow chart in my study material which you can just see and understand what all this all about. Okay, तो बहुत important है कि एक बार उसको मतलब उसके डायग्राम देखने से आपको समझना है. Then comes non-random में 3 टाइप की होती है. First convenience, second judgment, third quota. तो ये 3 टाइप की non-random sampling है and इनको बिल्कुल अच्छे से आपको करके जाना है. One thing more that all these they have merits and demerits. तो इसको मिस नहीं करना है. इसके मीनिंग, इसके फ्लो चार्ट्स, इनके मेरिट्स, डिमेरिट्स, तो ये सारी चीजें आपको पढ़नी है पक्के. Okay friends, let's move on to the next topic and this is again a very important question जो हर साल common question है, हर साल एग्जाम्स में आता है. And this is about the levels of measurement, or because attitude यानी कस्टमर के एटीट्यूड को मेजरमेंट करने के लिए बहुत सारे टेक्निक्स हैं and there are a lot of scales. ठीक है, ये 4 बेसिकली स्केल हम लोग यूज करते हैं. फर्स्ट इज नॉमिनल स्केल, ऑर्डिनल स्केल, इंटरवल स्केल एंड रेशियो स्केल. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो सबसे पहले समझते हैं नॉमिनल स्केल. एज द नेम इंप्लाइज, नॉमिनल, वेरी सिंपल एंड वेरी वाइडली यूज स्केल. एंड यहाँ पे होता क्या है, जस्ट इट टेल्स अस द रिलेशन बिटवीन 2 वेरिएबल्स, राइट. फॉर एग्जांपल, कभी कभी आपने देखा होगा दैट कभी सर्वे में दैट a simple question is asked whether you are male or female, right? So like this, a बहुत simple scale है where only 2 variables are there and based on that the customers attitudes are measured. Second one is ordinal scale and here apart from this variables one rank is added. Okay, one rank is added to the observation. How? Like for example, if suppose we are surveying about two phones, iPhone and MI phone. So now, like these ranks are given added, like 3 or 2, like 3 stars or 2 stars. So the customers or the observers, they are required to give their opinion about the different stars, whether to give 3 stars or 2 stars, like that. In interval scale, as the name implies, interval, that means it measures a time difference. And here again, like ये दोनों स्केल को again ऐड करेंगे हम लोग, and one more thing is added, and that is attribute. Now attribute can be given in two ways. One is by number or by alphabet. So like for example here, suppose we are studying about say Samsung phone, and there are three criteria: display, battery and storage. And if the customer is asked to give his ratings on the basis of these numbers, 1 2 3 1 2 3, so like he can give any such rating. Suppose display 3, battery 2, storage 1, so like that, it depends on the customer. So this is called numerical format. One more is there, that is alphabetical format, where very good, you are like good and not good, that means you are dissatisfied, or poor. So again, like the customer can give their feedback on the basis of these attributes. So this is called semantic. And in ratio scale, again, like we will add all these three with 0 point. Now what is this 0 point or absolute zero? So suppose like a simple question is asked to the customer that the number of phones that are being sold or bought during the last 6 months or 4 months or 1 month. So this time, like 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, so that is called 0 point. So apart from the attributes, one more point is added to the survey, right? So this is how the scale works, and these scales generally measure the attitude of the customers. Okay guys, the next is graphical presentation or diagrammatical representation. And यहाँ से आपको ये दो क्वेश्चन जरूर से पढ़ के जाना चाहिए एग्जाम्स में, कॉमन क्वेश्चंस है. एंड सबसे पहले तो इसकी इंपॉर्टेंस कि व्हाई दिस डायग्रामेटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशंस आर इंपॉर्टेंट or why they are significant. So firstly, they help in the comparison, right? They help in the comparison of different figures of different periods. And secondly, these comparisons helps to take decisions. They are simple to understand, because when you draw a diagram or flow chart or like that, so it becomes easy. Even like the illiterate persons can also they can understand them. Then it is attractive. It makes the figures attractive. That means that we can use a lot of colors in those diagrams. So that makes it very beautiful, attractive. Lastly, it is economical. That means it takes and consumes very less time, and they are also cost effective, right? Now let's see the different types of graphical representations that we study in statistics. Basically 4 types are there. This is line graph, bar graph, pie chart and pictograph. Fine. Again, bar diagrams, they are divided into simple bar diagrams and multiple bar diagrams. Okay, one by one. Suppose line graph. So how you will draw line graph? It's very simple. You can also draw in your exams. So this is a simple example of line graph where a single line is drawn for the variables. In bar graph, generally we have this type of figures, like this. So these are all bar graphs. So where bars are constructed. So these are bar graphs, right? And when you construct the multiple, like more than one bars, so that makes it multiple bar graph. You might get a difference between simple and multiple bar graph. Now this question also comes in a lot of exams. Okay, then comes pie chart. पाई चार्ट आप लोगों ने पहले बहुत बार किया हुआ है, एंड पाई चार्ट समथिंग इज लाइक दिस, जहाँ पे कुछ ऐसे फिगर्स हम लोग ड्रॉ करते हैं, राइट। सो दिस इज पाई चार्ट, जहाँ पे डिफरेंट वेरिएबल्स होते हैं एंड उसके एंगल्स होते हैं, एंड दिस इज कंपोज्ड ऑफ 360 डिग्री एंड ऑल दीज पार्ट्स आर डिवाइडेड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ डिग्रीज। देन कम्स पिक्टोग्राफ। पिक्टोग्राफ में यहाँ पे हम लोग डायग्राम्स ड्रॉ करते हैं, लाइक कुछ भी, जैसे दिस मैन्स पीपल, तो इस तरीके से डायग्राम ड्रॉ करके यहाँ पे इनके मार्क्स होते हैं। सो लाइक दिस वी मेक अ टेबल, जनरली वी यूज फिगर्स, राइट। सो these are the different types of the different types of diagrams that we use in statistics. आगे देखते हैं नेक्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक, सेंट्रल टेंडेंसी। सेंट्रल टेंडेंसी क्लास 6-7 से हम लोग पढ़ के आ रहे हैं। सेंट्रल टेंडेंसी सबसे पहले समझ लेते हैं इसका मीनिंग क्या होता है। सेंट्रल मीन्स द मिडिल वैल्यू, द एवरेज वैल्यू ऑफ सर्टन वेरिएबल्स, ठीक है, उसको बोला जाता है सेंट्रल टेंडेंसी। एंड ये दो चीज आपको यहां से करनी है। फर्स्ट, द डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ सेंट्रल टेंडेंसीज। बेसिकली होते तो 5 टाइप के हैं, लेकिन यू जस्ट लर्न फॉर दिस ओनली बिकॉज जो लास्ट मोमेंट में जो प्रिपरेशन कर रहे हैं जो स्टूडेंट्स, तो ये 3 करने से ही आपको हो जाएगा। मीन, मीडियन, मोड, ये नया कॉन्सेप्ट है नहीं आप लोगों के लिए, एंड ये सभी के आपको मेरिट्स एंड डिमेरिट्स, ये आपको जरूर से पढ़नी चाहिए इसके बारे में। Merits and demerits, and we know that median and mode, these are capable of graphical presentation, but mean is hard to plot on that graph, तो वो एक disadvantage है। And further algebraic treatment के लिए we can use mean and mode, okay। So like this we can write down the merits and demerits of all these 3 types of central tendencies. One more is there, the different characteristics of central tendency. इसके main features कैसे होने चाहिए? What are the essential conditions to draw a central tendency? And basically it should be comparable. We should be able to understand this. Then it should be complete. That means it should include all the variables and it should be capable of further algebraic treatment. So like this, we can write 2-3 lines about this. Don't stop your pen in the exams. सर नीचा करके लिखते रहिए, you will certainly be fine. The next important topic is skewness. Skewness is the degree of asymmetry in the probable distribution. So basically यहाँ से definition से तो ज़्यादा समझ नहीं पाएंगे, better होगा we can understand this with a graph, right? So skewness, what is the skewness? See, there are 3 types of skewness. One is positively skewed, the other is skewed, and third negatively skewed. So let's see. Now suppose this is when you draw a bell-like curve, right? This is also based on mean, median, mode, and if both the sides are well balanced at the same distance from the middle point, so this is called skewed. It is balanced skewed, where mean, median and mode, all these values are same, okay, so middle point, so this is skewed. And when we talk about positively skewed, so the bell will be little bit, it should be flatter on the right hand side, and here the mean, this is mean, and this is median, and this is mode. So here this is positively skewed, where mean is greater than median and median is greater than mode. And in negatively skewed, we can draw a figure something like this, just opposite of this figure, where the left hand side will be a little bit flatter and this will be little like this. So here the value of mode will be higher than the value of median and mean. So this is negatively skewed. So like this we can define the skew. Friends, the next one is it's one of the मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, द डिफरेंस बिटवीन कोरिलेशन एंड रिग्रेशन। हर साल ऑलमोस्ट एवरी ईयर एग्जाम्स में स्ट्राइक करते हैं। बहुत सारे बच्चे तो इसका मतलब समझ भी नहीं पाते। मैं आपको बताता हूँ एकदम सिंपलेस्ट वे में कैसे इसको आप डिस्टिंक्शन कर सकते हैं, समझ सकते हैं कॉन्सेप्ट। सी कोरिलेशन, इट टेल्स अस द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन टू वेरिएबल्स and it tells us the nature of relationship, right? Like for example, suppose we know that the knowledge grows with age. जैसे जैसे उम्र बढ़ती है नॉलेज बढ़ता है. So this is the subject matter of correlation. But in regression what happens? ये स्टडी करता है कि how much knowledge increases with the growing age. अगर अभी आप 25 years के हैं, when you will reach the age of 40 years, तो आपकी what is the change in the degree of your knowledge? So that is the subject matter of regression. तो यहाँ से चीज समझ में आ गई होगी आपको, क्योंकि ये क्वालिटी को फोकस करता है and it just it focuses on the quantity. Now both the variables are dependent on each other here, but here both the variables are independent. In correlation, generally it is expressed in numbers, but regression is expressed in the terms of equation. And there is no cause and effect relationship in correlation, but here there is a relationship of cause and effect. What is the cause and what is the effect or result? And correlation generally it's a narrow concept, and regression is a very wide. The next topic is index number, and let's try to understand the simplest definition of index number. It is the average used to measure the change over a period of time. कोई भी दो इंटरवल लाइक एक साल पहले और अभी दिस ईयर, तो दोनों के बीच का जो एवरेज नंबर्स हैं वो निकाला जाता है टू मेक ए कंपैरिजन, एंड its uses are also based on this. It helps to make comparison between the two different time intervals. That helps to take management decisions and frame policies of the organization. Index numbers are also used to find out the cost of living. Generally, the government uses index numbers for this purpose quite often. And you might have seen those students who know about stock market, they are all represented in the form of index numbers. Okay. And these are the basic issues like challenges that are being faced while we construct index numbers. First, we need sufficient data of both the years. Then we selection of the base year. What should be the base year? The previous year or previous to previous year? So like that. We have to select and that base year, it should be average, normal year. There should not be any abnormal incidents or accidents or natural calamities during that particular year. And then comes right method, because there are these three methods of finding index numbers, and we have to choose which one is the best method that works for you. Price index, quantity index, and value index. And you might get numerical from this part. So do practical, practice numericals from your IGNOU books. You can work out all the examples, right? Very simple. You have done this before in the college and school life, so it won't take much to guys. The next important question is chi-square test. Again, a very, very important question, very common question, almost strikes every year in the exams. You must understand this. It is a test to measure the difference between the observed and expected data. Okay, observed, because it is connected, this chi-square test is connected with hypothesis, and hypothesis is a tentative solution of a problem. We are just guessing. So that is your observed. You are guessing that and what you are expecting. So that when you are measuring the difference between these two, because both are very psychological things. So it's very one of the most critical tests that is being conducted. And in other words, we can also say that it is a measure of goodness of fit. Now, goodness of fit means how close the observed data and expected data are. So that is called goodness of fit. And this is the formula that we use for chi-square test. X square is equal to sigma into this is O. O means observed data E means expected data. Again, this is expected data or value. So this is the square of this. So very simple formula. And these assumptions or conditions should be followed in chi-square test. What is that? The sample should be collected randomly, and you must have an adequate, sufficient sample size, and there should be adequate cell, and the variables should be independent and not dependent on each other. So like this, there are many concepts apart from all these important questions. You should go through all the materials, and the previous video on MCO03 which I uploaded, you should watch that because it covers all the topics systematically, and you should study about formulation of hypothesis. This is one very important question, formulation of hypothesis. Then you should study about interpretation of data, interpretation of data. You should study about tabulation of data. So this is again an important question. And one more important question is questionnaire. This is from the last chapter. You may be asked to construct a questionnaire. So do not leave this question. It is one of the most simplest question of MCO03, where you can be asked to construct a questionnaire. से कभी हम लोग ट्रेन में जाते हैं तो उनके जो वर्कर्स होते हैं कभी एक सैंपल फॉर्म हमारे पास में लेके आते हैं, where all the you have to write the names, your occupation, your sex, and about how you feel about the services of the railways, so like that. तो just वो एक तरीके का फॉर्म यानी क्वेश्चनर, different types of question आपको put up करने हैं, and you will be getting 10 or 20 marks for that. So this is one of the very mark fetching. And friends, that's all in this video. And one more request that those students who have already bought my study materials on Telegram, I would request them kindly not to share this in any group, right? Because that creates a lot of confusion for my old or new students. So I hope you will be abide with that. With that, Mark, best of luck for the exams.